This is the No Spoon Podcast, and my name is Che. Welcome, everybody, to a special edition of the No Spoon Podcast. This one is not live, it's going to be recorded. So I'm going to put it up on all the different platforms, including YouTube. So if you have not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do so right now. Also, don't forget to like and share it with as many people as possible. Also, leave a comment if you got something that you want to say. This is going to be a really good show because we got a special guest coming on that I think you guys are going to enjoy. It's going to be controversial. It's going to be everything that you look forward to when you tap into the No Spoon podcast, where we talk about culture, politics, and common sense. And we're going to talk about a lot of common sense on this episode. We have with us today um, a woman who is formerly incarcerated, who now works with formerly incarcerated women and incarcerated women. She's an advocate for them in the prison system. And I first saw her. She was just recently on the American Cholo podcast, which if you haven't gone and watched that episode, go ahead and, after you get done with this, watch that. It gets into depth about a lot of her story and how she came into this situation. And it's really a good episode, right? So shout out to American Cholo for that interview. But we're gonna kind of with me, when I watched it, I related so much to it because, as you know, I was formerly incarcerated for 15 years out here in California, and she was incarcerated out here in California. So we kind of I related so much to her story, um, you know, but she's just on the women's side, and I was on the men's side. And I think that it's like, as soon as I saw it, I said, I got to reach out to her because I got to have her on, and we got to talk, we got to chop it up and really just kind of share our experiences. And that's what we're going to do here today. But she has a very an agenda, right? There's an agenda because there's an agenda going on inside the women's prisons and here at CDCR here in California. And the agenda is to integrate biological males in with women. And so obviously there's a lot of women that aren't happy with this, but there's a lot of special interests that have their own nefarious agendas that are trying to push this. And so she's fighting against that. And so it's one of the other reasons I wanted to reach out, because I feel like this is important that we deal with this issue. It's important that I think that there's a bigger uh, underlying agenda, underlying issues that come with this. And so we're gonna address it. We're gonna talk about it. So I want to welcome everybody to the No Spoon podcast. Amie Ichikawa.
Hi,
What's up, Amy? How you doing?
what's up? I'm good. I'm good. I'm very, very happy that we're in touch.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. So, as you know, I just kind of laid out here in the intro of who you are. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your past and how you ended up in jail, and then we can go from there, and then we can get into all the fun stuff.
All right. I had a normal childhood. Just had a real big issue with authority. Um, and I started late. I got locked up. I was 24, almost 25. Um, and I had just wanted to hang on to my independence so much that I started selling dope on the weekends. And how quick those kind of things can spiral out of control. And I wound up fighting, kidnapping for ransom and a slew of other felonies. And I was blessed with 5 years. Could have been a whole lot worse. So I was gone for that time, and I made a lot of relationships and started to care about a lot of people. And um, because of what's going on to those people, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing today.
How long have you been out?
Almost 8 years now.
Okay, cool.
And I was doing normal stuff, had a normal job, was doing my thing, still in touch with people. But when it just became so apparent that there was a lack of resources, there was a lack of availability of things specifically for women, I had to do something.
And so you did 5 years.
Mhm.
Okay, okay. I mean, that's a cool stretch. I mean, especially, There's not a lot on the women's side, there's not a are there a lot of lifers? Are there a lot of people doing long stretches over there?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of LWOPs, a lot of lifers, and they're they're the glue that holds us together in there. They're the ones that
Yeah.
teach us everything. They're the ones who taught me how important it is to be a woman. And I mean, I didn't even know that I was worth anything until that 5 years was over and they were done telling me every single day. Every single day, somebody had to tell me, you're worth more than nothing. You know that, right? Because I didn't know. I really didn't know. And because they helped me grow my spine, they gave me my
Mhm.
backbone. They empowered me to do that. When I walked out that day, I promised that wasn't it. That wasn't going to be the end, and I wouldn't forget the things that they had done for me. And I told them, when I eat, you eat. For I'll be back. I won't be back, but but I'm not going to forget.
It's crazy because it's like I don't know if people can really understand that. You know what I mean? Like you you gain so much from it. I always tell people all the time, like, I don't regret the time. Obviously, I would do things different with the knowledge that I have now, to where I wouldn't be in that situation. I wouldn't, I didn't want to put my family through what I went through, but what I gained from it is invaluable. And so, like, what do you when you say like they taught you how to be a woman and they gave you your backbone, like what do you mean by that? Like,
I was so I was so hurt. I was so broken when I got there. I was so beat down and conditioned to think that you know I was just here for people to use. Um, I had never been in a normal relationship. Um, I had never seen uh, 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 you know anything that is healthy. Um, and I was so used to being abused. I was so used to being um, like robbed by the people that were closest to me, that I had no concept of the fact that this I was allowing this stuff to happen to me.
mhm,
They help me understand these are the choices that I'm constantly making. These are the same kind of relationships that I'm getting into again and again. And at some point, I have to stop blaming the people and understand that my actions, my choices are leading to these things. Um, and I just needed somebody to kind of yell at me for 5 years to tell me this is what is happening. Um, I it just hit because people had told me, tried to coach me and help me out before I was incarcerated, but it wasn't hitting. Nothing
mhm,
was gaining any traction with me. Uh, but inside, when you have no choice but to listen, you have to sit down. Um, it just it resounded. It finally caught on. Like, oh, I'm worth more than nothing. It finally hit. Um, it finally hit, and then learning that there were people that were going to be my friends whether we argued or not. We were still going to function. We were still going to work through stuff. We could even scrap and still love each other at the end of the day. um, when you're in those kind of situations where there are no choices, you have to deal with the pain. You have to deal with healing.
mhm.
It just That's what I needed. I needed that kind of environment in order to process the stuff and grow. And I like you said, I don't regret the time either. If I wouldn't have gone, I could be dead. Uh, and I know it was it's because it had to be. It was meant to happen. And I definitely wouldn't take those 5 years back.
Yeah, like you just said, you could be dead. And I think what's even scarier to me is not the sense that I could be dead, but I could just be like everybody else.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of like there's something about being up against it to me that brings out it. I mean, it can bring out the worst and it can bring out the best in people. And I'm pretty sure you've seen the worst in people
Mhm.
in the same situations. And I think it's just all about how you choose to respond. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And but man, when you're in there and you're really up against it, you find the greatest, the greatest jewels, not just about yourself, but other people.
Mhm.
Do you
I
do you
mean,
do you do you see like can you see that how it how can I kind of frame this? Like how it's not duplicated out here?
oh, it's not duplicated at all. When I came home, I was like, "What is this place? This is the most disrespectful place I've ever seen in my life. What has happened?" And it's not what has happened. It's always been like this. It's that I changed. I came out and I knew how to be considerate of other people because when I made a move for the last 5 years, I had to think about how it was going to impact everybody else in the room, everybody else in the hallway, everybody else in the unit, and everybody gets in that kind of considerate thinking, like
Mhm.
every step is going to impact. It's that butterfly effect, you know. And people don't do that out here. They just step on my toes, they push me, they're loud in my ear, they're up behind me, all real close, they're tailgating me. It's all kind of stuff that people are moving so quickly and with nothing else in mind except for themselves. It's not the same. And that's one of the things I really push when women are coming home. I tell them, people think I'm crazy when I'm explaining these things, but I'm telling them, hey, you got to get ready because it ain't like in there out here. People don't care. People don't say I love you when they hang up the phone. You know, in there we're like, okay, I love you. See you next unlock, because we don't know what's going to happen between now and the top of the next hour. We don't know. Um, and when I came home and I was like telling friends, okay, I love you, they were like, what is wrong with you? Are you okay? And I was like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, you don't get that as much on the men's side. I mean, we don't really be like, "Okay, love you, see you tomorrow."
Right.
But but there is a closeness, you know what I
Mhm,
mean? And there is a real camaraderie. You know what I'm saying? That like when I like you and I were talking about this yesterday, and I told you I wanted to bring it up because we can relate, but personally, I miss it.
mhm.
Do you kind of
I I missed it so much. I was so lonely when I first came home. I mean, you know, when you haven't been alone for so many years, not even for 1 second.
Mhm,
Um, not for 1 second. It's always been somebody there. It's the independence and the freedom is almost it was overwhelming. I didn't know what to do with it. And I didn't know who to talk to. And when I would talk to like my family members or my free world friends, they didn't get it, and it started putting a big strain on our relationships because I wanted them to understand, but then I started to see that I can't force them to understand where I'm coming from because they haven't lived that experience, and I don't necessarily want them to have lived that experience. But who I can depend on are the people who have been where I've been, and I made a like a private Facebook group because I wanted a place to be able to talk without feeling like an idiot.
mhm.
And I mean, right now there's 1,300 women, formerly incarcerated women in there, and um, it's like a, I don't want to say it's like a virtual main yard, but it's it's a place where you can say what you got to say, and there's people in there that will relate, and you don't feel like an alien, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but it was very, very lonely. I just wanted that connection. I wanted, like I wanted to talk to my bunkie. I wanted to say how my day was. I wanted to discuss some deep issues or feelings that I was having, and there wasn't anybody I could do that with out here.
Yeah, it's things out here move so fast, you know what I
Mm,
mean? Like, everything there's no time for reflection, and then you deal with people that have never had to reflect on anything. They've never had to be able to look at themselves and say, "Okay, how does that look?" You know what I mean? And it's almost like, you know, you're around people where you're like, how do you not see this? How do you not see that? How do you not understand this? Or how is that doesn't make sense? You know what I mean? Like, so
Mhm,
I'm, you know, everybody used to tell me like when you come home, you're going to be a step ahead of everybody. And I think that's just from being able to reflect on myself so much. And you said the main thing earlier when you said, they showed you how to be accountable. They showed you how to, you know, make that you're here by your choices. And
mhm,
that's to have those people, man, like, and it's rough. You know what I mean? It's like
mhm.
it's not
It hurts. It's like,
yeah.
"Oh, are you kidding me? I'm not a victim. I'm not a victim. I have a victim. I got here because I had plenty of opportunities to not do what I did, like, and I had to have, like, a bunch of lifers really sit down and help me understand, like, "Hey, you gotta be responsible for the steps that you take and the moves that you make, Amy. You can't cry and pretend like you didn't know, because you know, and you're smart. You're way smart. Come on now." But I had to be told that every single day by multiple people. Maybe because my skull is so thick, I don't know, but it's something that I really needed to have driven home constantly, and I'm so blessed by it. I'm so thankful for it. I mean, I'm so thankful that when I got my ducat, I felt so terrible. I didn't even want it because I felt so unworthy of that parole ducat. I,
Mhm.
I I mean, they were calling me, they're like, Ichikawa, because I didn't want, I had to say bye. I had to talk to people. I had to give the rest of my stuff away. They had to like drag me out. And when I stepped out of the gate, I just wept because I felt so undeserving. There were just so many other women who worked so hard and done so much less than I had done to get a life sentence. That whole guilt thing really started to play a part. Um,
Yeah. It's you know, I don't I it makes you not take it for granted out here. You know what I mean? Like everything that you have, I mean,
Freedom.
freedom.
They have no idea. They don't know. Unless you've had it taken from you before,
Mhm.
how can you really appreciate it? I never understood how vital what it really is. It's everything. And that's why I go so hard about certain things I go hard on, because freedom is very underrated out here, under celebrated. People just don't know.
Oh man, it's there's that saying that says, you know, hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. And I really just feel like we're in the good times creating weak men and just weak people. You know what I mean? It's not just
Mhm,
men, but we shy away from the struggle. And the greatest joy and the greatest, sense of completion I've ever felt in my life came in some of the harshest conditions. And, you know, I think that our society is we've been so coddled. I'm
mhm,
gonna use that word. Like for real, like it's just been so much coddling. It's just been so much, you know, I want this and I want that and
mhm.
I need this and I'm entitled to this and that, that it's like, bro, like go out there and just feel it. Just feel the pain.
Remember, sticks and stones may break my bones. I mean, but words will never hurt me. I remember that, and now
Mhm.
people are literally claiming that they're physically injured by words. Um, it's wild. I want to tell people, like, you got to do something to these. Everybody's so sensitive. You have to do something. Because everybody is so hypersensitive. Everything is an injury. Everything is causing this great detriment, and it's not true. I'm like, no, you're not bleeding. Nothing happened. Like you're good. Um,
Yeah.
but they don't get it.
Well, that's one of the things that I noticed, like when coming home, and like what I missed is like people in there were so like we knew, 1 plus 1 equals 2. So if we
Mhm.
did this and it led to that, that this was going to happen, and everybody was okay with that. And some people would just get at you. You know what I mean? It was no like subliminals. It was no like passive aggressiveness. It was just, hey, check it out. Woo to woo. This is what it is. What's up? You know what I mean? And it
Mhm.
was like so like then you come out here and everybody's like, they give you
Mm.
this they
I
give
mean,
you the
and
fake.
it was so much easier, like, "Hey, we're gonna rock it. We're gonna go for a walk, and, we're gonna come back, and then we're gonna have a picnic." It was very cut and dry, and sometimes I'm out here, and I'm like, "Can we just fight so that we can alleviate the tension
Yeah.
between us and just move forward?" But we can't. We cannot. This
Mhm.
but that kind of straightforwardness and just getting down where you're mad at too. People don't do that out here. They want to let things fester and um, have this animosity that builds and turns into other things instead of addressing issues like when they happen. Oh, you're mad at me? Tell me I offended you or whatever. Don't wait 6 months until you hate my guts. Let's deal with it. And
And I always felt like that made it, I had a homie in there, and he used to tell me, he used to say like, his mentality was like, you know, we deal with well, anytime anybody does something and you feel like it's a problem, and then the way we're gonna deal with it, we're gonna go all the way with it. Right. So if this dude did something to you, there ain't no
mhm,
like we gonna go all the way. We're gonna get knives out and we're gonna do what we gotta do. So, but and so he would always tell me like, if it's not worth that, then you need to learn how to let it go. And you don't
mhm.
realize, like, people look at that and be like, well, that's crazy. You're just gonna be stabbing people. Like, no, you're not.
That's
You're
no
not. You're gonna actually think about those problems. You're going to try to figure out a way, how can I solve this without,
critical thinking. Mhm.
man. And people
We
out
don't
here,
have
they
that.
they don't they don't have that. They don't do that. They just kind of, they either just react emotionally or they hold it all in, and it eventually comes out in some other crazy way.
But that critical thinking, that's something that I miss that so much. Problem solving, like, oh, um, how are we going to get away with this, or how are we going to resolve this? How are we going to make sure we get out for open draw? There was always so much thinking involved with everything. Like I had said yesterday, if you want to get a Christmas present for your bunkie, you got to think 3 months in advance so that you can get that in your box. There's every single thing involves a great deal of thought, more so than it does out here. And I definitely
Hmm.
miss that, like you can try and duplicate it, you can try and make your, prison tamales or whatever, and nothing, it's just not the same.
No, it's
It's
not, man.
not.
Them spreads don't hit like they do in there.
No,
And
they're
I make them all the
terrible
time
here.
sometimes. It's just like, it don't really work for me. I do it because it's easy. And I'd be
You
like,
need
just
some
throw s
arsenic in your water so it could taste the same.
man, yeah, for real. Like, we don't use tap water. Like, nobody used tap water out here, man. I drank tap water for 15 years.
Oh boy, and that's a sore subject. I mean, how many millions of dollars are they allocating for the repair of the water infrastructure? And still at every prison it's toxic. Literally the cops don't even wash their hands with that water. Eh,
But you can't. They even discourage that,
mhm.
but we drink the water every
We
day.
bathe in it, we cook in it, we mm,
Well, like we were saying before we came on, I was like, to me, this was the testing ground. That's how I always looked at it. Like, everything was a test. Like, if I was a pharmaceutical company and I wanted to produce some type of, therapy, quote unquote, right? Um, and I needed some real case studies in real humans, where would I find humans that nobody cared about?
CDCR.
You know what I mean? So I didn't put, I mean, I can't prove any of this,
Hmm.
obviously, but it makes sense to me. That's why when they used to come around with flu shots, no.
Right.
Yeah. You want to get a surgery? No.
No, no, I mean, and like recently they were about to take a partner of mine's wrong breasts off. I mean, and she 602'd it. And when they corrected it on the paperwork, they called and said, "Can you drop the 602 now? Because we're gonna do it right now." No, but you only are gonna do it right because I noticed. Um, it's so reckless because there's so little societal value on incarcerated individuals. They don't
Mhm.
have any societal value. So what are you gonna do? Um,
You have to give
oh,
them value, and that
mhm.
value and I mean, that value comes from, "We're gonna use your body." Like I said, I can't prove any of this, but to
Mhm.
me, it just during my time, I moved a certain way because I just felt like, why wouldn't they?
Right.
You know what
I
I
mean, it
mean? Like,
wasn't Tuskegee was just like yesterday.
right.
Um, I mean, look, they've been testing on people. I can't prove it, but I mean, there's like a drug every 5 years that is overprescribed, and suddenly everybody is on it in there. 1 year it was Lexapro, now it's Suboxone and testosterone. Um, they push everything. Uh, 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 and nobody makes these connections. It's real wild.
And
And
everybody is triple CMS. Everybody is
oh
on
my
the,
gosh.
they
Mhm.
push for you to get on that. They push for you to, and I remember there was a time I was at a particular place, and what they were doing is they were like, I got on triple CMS, and I got on it just for briefly, only because the building I was in, they were using that for AdSeg overflow, and if you weren't triple CMS, they were moving you. So I didn't take any medication. I just had, a psych came once a month, and it just got to the point where the psych was like, because I didn't really talk to them. I'd just be like, "No, I'm cool. I don't want to
Mhm.
say nothing," because you don't really talk to them like that anyways. You know what I mean? And if they did, they would just say like, "Are you sleeping okay? Do we want us to give you something? This, and that." And you're like, um no, but they would always push it, and then I would see other people that would be like, yeah, they give me, what was the thing everybody used to take, Seroquel,
Oh
the
my gosh.
that would just knock you out for like 3
Yeah.
days.
And you be eating in your sleep? That's a crazy one. I went triple CMS too because I didn't wanna move from Chowchilla to New Folsom. I didn't wanna do it. Everybody's afraid of a move. You hate bed
Yeah,
moves.
yeah, yeah.
Nobody wants to move institutions, and I didn't wanna move. I couldn't bear the thought of, like, dorm living, so I went triple CMS, but that was the year everyone was on Lexapro, everyone. Lexapro and, something else, something else that's specifically for seizures, but they were using it for nerve damage for everybody.
What is
Um,
Lexapro?
Lexapro's like a antidepressant or something,
Mhm.
and it was actually some lifer friends of mine that were like, "Hey, it's time for you to go back to the psych and tell them you want off of that because you're talking like Mickey Mouse." And I was like, "Hi," and I was like, "Oh, wow, this is bizarre. Imma stop doing this." So I started cheeking it because I was Mickey Mouse, and, that's when it started to register with me. This is all orchestrated. This isn't, not everybody has the same problems. Why are we all on the same medication? Uh, doesn't make any sense.
Experiments, man. That's how I looked at
Mhm.
it, like, experiments. It would be, uh which is Seroquel was one of them. They would give out Neurontins, they would give out,
Yes, but, Neurontin specifically causes severe brain fog and, others when it's not diagnosed exclusively for seizures, and they're giving it to people for diabetic nerve damage, for like back problems. They're even doing it to people on parole. They're like, "Hey, I got some new news," and no, 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 we're not doing that anymore.
yeah.
But I had just saw something specifically on misuse and misprescribing of Neurontin on is bad.
Well, yeah, I mean, and then I seen people, um, of course, and now you're giving these strong drugs to people who have drug problems.
Mhm.
So there's going to be abuse of them. I mean, I would see guys. I saw one guy, he came out and he was like this. And I was like, "What's wrong with you?" He was like, I took my Celly's uh psych meds. I don't know what happened to me. Now you walking around, your neck is like this. No,
Mhm.
seriously. And I was like, "Why'd you do that? Like, what's that about?" And it was like, it's like you're giving these things to people. Of course, people would sell morphines, and you know what I
Oh,
mean.
yes.
That was a big.
That was that was
That
a
was
very interest
Yeah. I mean, that was like that was dope in there. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
so they just hand out these medications like candy, unless you're
Mhm.
really hurt. Now, if you're really hurt,
You can
they.
drink more water. Drink more water.
There you go. Yeah. And
You're overweight, drink a lot of water, drink the arsenic. I mean, but now everybody's on this Suboxone, which is a anti opioid blocker. So people that don't even have pre-existing drug problems, ain't nobody in there detoxing allegedly. So why would you give this opioid blocker to so many people? There's people, their moms are calling me saying, "My daughter's a zombie. What am I supposed to do? I can't talk to her. She doesn't, even when she does call, she doesn't say anything," because they're all so heavily sedated. And then when the dope does come in and you're on an opioid blocker, you don't know you're getting high and you overdose and die. Um,
yeah.
it's it's
Yeah.
the worst science project I ever seen.
No, it is. And I think, cuz when like there was the whole push of to get rid of the solitary confinement in the shoe and all that type of stuff. And I was in the shoe for a couple years. Um Honestly, man, I loved it. I loved it. I loved it because I had so much time to just
Read.
read and work out and be by yourself. And other people it does a lot of damage to, because a lot of these people can't be by themselves. Like, they can't.
Hmm.
Being stuck in a room with yourself, the person that you hate, is a
It's like
is
hell.
yeah, yeah. And but I think that the real issue is not so much the solitary confinement. I think it's the proliferation of these pharmaceuticals. Like,
Hmm.
they just hand them out like candy, and you get guys. I always tell the story, like, there was a guy I was with, um, and he was normal, like, he was cool, like, he used to play poker, he used to play basketball, he used to just be, regular dude trying to get his money, hustling, just doing what he was doing, you know what I mean? Had his family. Then I saw him like a few years later, maybe like 4 or 5 years later, after he had went to the shoe. And I think he and then what they do is, if you go to AdSeg, they entice you with, if you go triple CMS, then they'll give you your TV. If you don't go triple CMS and you stay, and then when I was there, I stayed in AdSeg the whole time. I didn't go to triple CMS because I didn't care about the TV. And so, but guys will go for it. Yeah, I want to get my TV, and they'll even give you a TV. That's how crazy. Like, they
Wow.
would let you. Yeah, they would have TVs there that they would give you because they want to calm you down. But they're also feeding you medication. And so I saw this guy like maybe 4 or 5 years later, and he was not the same. Like, he was talking to himself. He was saying
Thorazine shuffle.
the
Ugh,
Thorazine shuffle. Yeah, you already know. Like,
dang.
he was just, and then like other people were like, "What's up with old boy?" And I was like, "I don't know, man. Like, like, he wouldn't. That's not how he used to be. I don't know what happened to him." But it's like, yeah, man. Like, I think that's the real issue, man. Like, I don't think it's necessarily like these shoes are breaking people. I mean, they can break you, but them medications is experiments, man. That's how I look
Hmm.
at it. You
And
know.
then the whole shoe issue, you know what happened after that. It's just been retaliatory action after action after action. And that's where we're at right now.
Yeah. So why don't you like? So what you have an organization, right?
Mhm.
Why don't you tell us about that, and then tell us about the issue that we're here to talk about.
Well, a little over a year ago, I founded Woman to Woman. Um, initially it was for to serve as a resource hub so that women coming out knew everything that was available to them because they don't really tell you a whole lot. They just give you your $200 and tell you to kick rocks. So I wanted to make sure the women knew you can access this and this and this, and you can go to this program and this program. But at the same exact time that I'm trying to create the infrastructure of this organization, the implementation of SB 132 started. And
Hmm.
I had never even heard of it. I'm out here living my life. And COVID and all this stuff, it just slipped right under my radar, and basically everyone else's too. Um, it's titled the Transgender Respect, Agency, and Dignity Act, and it's marketed as if these things, respect, agency, and dignity, were taken from this community. But little do they know, nobody in prison has respect, agency, or dignity. So you're not giving
Mhm.
back something that was taken. You're providing privileges just to a small sector of people, which is incredibly dangerous, especially in prison. You can't really do that.
Mhm.
And the way it's written, if this was for everybody, if this was just the Incarcerated Persons Respect, Agency, and Dignity Act, that'd be great. Um, when your own perception of health, safety, and well being is taken into consideration regarding any bed moves, job placements, whatever, um, that would be nice. That would be, decent. But that's not what's happened.
So what
There's
has happened?
no
What is the what do you mean? They want to give respect, agency, and dignity to transgender people. What does that mean?
uh, it means
What
that
does that
they're
mean? What is it? What is it they want it to mean? But what does it really mean?
It's supposed to protect a marginalized, members of the incarcerated community that are at a much higher risk of violence, alleged, reportedly. Um, but we all know the minute you walk out of your cell, everybody is facing the same danger. Everybody wakes up in the morning and is taking the same risk when they put their foot on the floor. Um, the
It's
trans people that I
prison.
have,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
prison.
the trans women that I've spoken to in the men's joint have said, uh-uh, when I wake up and when I go out, I'm I'm on a level 3, main line. Nothing's
Mhm.
gonna happen exclusively because I'm trans. I mean, if I'm gonna get down, it's not related to that. But there's these statistics that were created, that show different. They show that there is a 40% higher rate of somebody who is trans identified, specifically trans women. Their chances of getting sexually assaulted are just through the roof. Um, and that's how the law was specifically designed to protect, specifically trans women. Um,
So what they're saying that the I gotta specify because I always get confused when we say trans women. We're saying
oh, yeah,
biological
yeah.
males or
Mhm.
someone who's a biological male, right?
Who's
And then
who's identifying as female,
right,
yes.
okay. So
And that's super confusing, sorry.
no, you and they're more likely to be uh sexually assaulted. That's what they're
Mhm.
saying.
Yes.
Like you said,
Yeah,
40%.
uh-huh. 40% increased rate, and, because of that, they need to, have their own perception of, where they are best able to do their time, taken into consideration. They need to go to committee, they need to, if they do choose to self ID as female, they go to some a special committee and it's evaluated, and the transfer is granted. There is no reason for denial that isn't considered discriminatory. You can't deny someone based on their gender, sexual orientation, criminal history. Um, so basically, loosely, translated, this means that we have heterosexual serial rapists that are already over there that qualify for a transfer. You cannot deny anything based on external genitalia. That, like, they got so specific. I think they were reading my mind because they knew that I was going to come at them with the whole no, penis is over here and vagina is over here. That's it.
Mhm.
They even changed the CDCR website. They changed the FAQs just recently, to include that specific definition from PRIA about, people with different. You cannot base someone's housing on their genitalia, their external genitalia. That's how specific it got.
External genitalia.
I didn't know there was internal. Blah, blah.
But okay, so let me go back to this.
Mhm,
So they're saying that they're that the rape thing, right?
mhm.
um, that they're more likely to be sexually assaulted.
Mhm.
And I mean that's easily explained, to be honest with you, because they're more likely also to be in a sexual relationship
Mhm.
in prison. I mean, let's just call it what it is. Like, um, you don't, you know, you get the movies, you know what I mean, and the Hollywood version of prison, like, don't drop the soap and all this type of stuff like that. That doesn't happen. Like, just being honest, like, I'm not saying it. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it doesn't happen like the way that they make it seem. Like, just being real. Like, you don't see it like that. Doesn't mean it doesn't go down. Doesn't mean it's never happened. I've maybe heard about it maybe 2 or 3 times. You know what I mean? And the people that were on the receiving end of it weren't necessarily like, um,
Straight.
yeah, you know what I mean? Like they were in those positions. They were in that compromising kind of situation. Like, I never just seen somebody just be like, "There's a weak person over there, let's rape him." Because for one,
Mhm.
people would look at you like a weirdo. Like, "What? Like,
Right.
we don't do that." Like, you know what I mean? Like, you would be you that wouldn't be good for you. It's not like people look
Mhm.
like be cheering them like, "Yeah, that's right, you did that." Like, no, there would be consequences for that. So you can't really just do that. So when I hear something like that, I'm like, yeah, but are we taking into consideration that, you know, they're the ones engaging in that type of activity? So
No.
that's what leads that to happen?
Or that they don't even report it. These are unreported. I don't know how they develop the statistics because they're saying that people aren't comfortable to report sexual assaults. So then how did you get these statistics? And if they're reporting them and it's taken seriously, why then when a woman reports it, is it not taken seriously? Um, but I mean, what you just did right now, acknowledging that this is a false reality, that a false narrative that they're pushing, and what's really going on is what I am very desperate to get more men to stand up and say, because it's going to increase the credibility. We need men
Mhm.
behind us pushing the reality, because they think that like we're just whining, we're lying, we're manipulating, we're transphobes, we're bigots. No, no, we need men to say, hey, this is the real deal, this is what's happening in there. um and it's not what you think, it's not like TV.
Yeah.
um it's not a big rape festival in there.
No.
um
And I'm
that
trying to
also,
and I'm trying to, like, think and, like, as we're talking, I'm trying to think of situations that I might have heard of, you know what I mean? And, like, yeah, you know what? I'm thinking of situations that I've heard of, and all of them, like, even I mean, I've heard of some situations where it's like, you know, somebody got beat up and then they got, something happened, they got assaulted that way afterwards. And I'm like, because I mean, I'm not saying, especially more back in the days, you would hear about stories of people just kind of taking it from guys, or um there was a situation in
Mill
Corcoran.
Creek. Oh, Corcoran.
Well, there was a situation in Corcoran, and this is documented in this book called Lockdown America by Michael Creighton, and he talked about it. I think I'm getting that right. Michael Parenti. Sorry, Michael Creighton is a different author, but Michael Parenti had talked about it. So there was they called him they called him the booty bandit in Corcoran. And
Wow.
so, yeah, go look this up. So remember, Corcoran was infamous for the fights, for
Mhm, mhm.
the betting on the inmates and stuff like that. They're sending enemies to the shoe yards, and the cops would bet on
Mhm.
them and stuff like that. So, but there was an inmate there that was notorious. I'm not gonna say his name. I know his name, but I'm not gonna say his name, and because everybody knew who he was, right? And he was notorious for doing this. So there was an incident that happened in Calipatria back in the 90s. I think it was the late 90s, where they the they ran up in the program office and stabbed a bunch of cops, right? And this is why now in Calipatria they have gates. You can't get to the in front of the program office around the track. So, but what happened was is that once they got to the Corcoran shoe, the officers were putting some of those guys in the cell with this guy, and
Mhm.
he was and he was a big dude, and he was beating him up, and he was taking it,
Mhm.
right? Now,
Now this is what they're doing to the women.
well,
I
see, but
mean,
this is what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that these guys that these guys that were victimized by him were not trans. They were regular guys, and as a retaliatory purpose, the cops kind of retaliated against them by putting them in the cell with this dude,
mhm,
knowing that that was going to happen. I don't think that you can solve that problem by then allowing this was not a trans issue. You know what I mean?
mhm,
This was a sick individual that was utilized by the administration to punish these guys for doing what they
mhm,
did. Um, so it's kind of like, and then I was hearing that it wasn't just those guys; it was just anybody the cops didn't like. You know what I
mhm,
mean? I would hear. I mean, listen, I was back there in the shoe. There was a lot of times, cops would do stuff, and inmate get into it with inmates, and then they would work with other inmates to say, "Hey, I'm going to send this guy into your cell. You already know what time it is," or or it happened to a lot of guys that had sex crimes. So I mean, I can give you one where I was asked by a cop, and they were saying, "Hey, there's a guy over here in this unit. He's got this. You want to go in the cell with him?" But it was kind of like wink and a nod, like you already know, we'll turn our back. And I was just kind of like, I'm like, I don't like those type of people, right?
mhm,
That especially when you do stuff to kids. But I'm also not into like letting you use me as your pawn. If you have something
mhm.
against him, CO, why don't you go do it? I'm just saying these
Mhm.
situations happen. I don't think that you integrating women's prison with biological men that identify as women would solve that.
No.
Everything that I just aimed to you right there is not
Mhm.
solvable by sending biological men that identify as women over there to women's prison.
And they know this. They know this. They're not stupid. These are people that went to Duke and Harvard. They know what they're doing. They did this because they formulated this law, they framework this law. They're going to file their lawsuits knowing how this law works. They're going to get these cases won. They're going to use these cases as case studies in free world law so that they can control everything in that arena. It's more experimentation. They're doing their test run here. They're using this to be able to control the outside because nobody's going to run to the rescue and defend um, these injustices that are occurring within the carceral system because who is going to do that? But they're not
Mhm,
counting on us communicating. They weren't counting on us working with trans that are still locked, that are still inside, to expose the reality that this is a 100% false narrative that is being pushed, that is being manipulated, that is just part of a whole different agenda. Um, and they're just using us again.
mhm. You said that they can there's a special committee, right?
Mhm.
And that they can get this transfer over to the women's facility. What is the criteria? Like, what did they need? Do they need to? So I'll give you an example. Like, um, I know that like when you used to go to the county jail, they had a special section for the uh uh the gay inmates, right? But like you couldn't just go over, like you had to show them something of saying that this is what you were. Like, you couldn't just go to the cop and say, "Hey, I'm gay, send me over there with the gays," because what would
Mhm.
end up happening, from my understanding, is that y- people would try to go over there, and then they just start punking everybody, you know what I mean, and just start taking everybody's stuff, and you know what I mean. Like,
Mhm.
you just it's you didn't want to do that. You didn't want to send a bunch of you know
Bullies and
yeah.
bottom feeders into, yeah.
Right. So is that the same? Are they doing the same thing there? Like, are they saying, okay, well, you need to show us some type of proof that you are trans, or is it not? Like, what's going
It's
on?
it's exclusively self-identification. You say, I identify as anything outside of the, um, gender norms. Anything you could be gender fluid, intersex, intersex is something else. Non-binary, but that's also included. There's all these other cultural things. Mayhu, two spirit. You can say you're any of those things, and
Anything but a man.
yes, anything but a man, and that's all you have to do. And if you are denied for any reason, then they have to give you the reason why within a 30-day period in writing, explaining exactly what the reason is for your denial. And since there are so limited number of reasons to deny a move, what can you do? If it can't be because you're a serial woman beater or a rapist or um,
So those
a
don't exclude you.
not at all. The way the law is written, if anybody is currently in the prison that you're trying to go to has the same charges as you, the same convictions as you, or anything similar, then it's cool. That they
What
can't use that as a reason.
what are the reasons for denial? Are there do they lay those
I
out? Like what
asked, I asked them. I got a public information request back, and it said that the safety and is taken into consideration. Oh, based on enemy concerns, which is not true because they're not checking for enemies. They're not checking if that's somebody's ex-husband who's going to kill him that's coming over. They're not checking those things. Um, they gave me like a very watered down explanation that was just very circular. There is literally no way you could say no, because it even states in the law you can petition again for a rehearing once you get that notification of why you were denied.
yeah.
And
So
there's no
so
requirements. You don't have to be you don't have to you don't have to have surgery. Um, you don't have to
hormones,
no. You don't
you
have
have
to
yeah.
outwardly present as a female. Um,
You just go in there with like a full beard like this and be like,
yes,
"Hey, check
there's
this out."
there's full beards. There's dudes with fully tatted with full beards getting off the bus.
No, I'm just thinking because I'm like, so because enemy concerns, that's normal. That's normal
Mhm.
protocol for any prison. Like, yeah,
With
you
any
can't
move.
if you gotta you can't go to this pen if you gotta, if you got an enemy there. It's called an
Mhm.
A12 list. And you have an A12 list is, and that could happen if you get into a fight with somebody or, you know, um, you catch an assault on somebody, even if they sign off on it, they're not gonna let you sign
Mhm.
off. Like you have that list. And so,
Mhm.
they're treating it's almost like they're treating the women's facility as just another yard that you can
It's
go
a
to,
it's
whether
a PC overflow. That's all it is.
yeah,
It's a
I mean,
PC overflow.
and then it's like so you can technically be a convicted rapist
Yes.
and say, "I identify as a woman," and they'll send you around women.
Mhm. I was there in 2011 or 12 when they sent a serial rapist in, um, and this person committed their crime in Madeira, so a lot of people were familiar with the case. Um, it was bad. People were very afraid. I wasn't even on the same yard, and I was calling home freaking out every day like, "This is legal. This is illegal. Help me. What is this?
Yeah.
What's happening? How could this be happening?" And they were like, "Can you, like, stop taking other people's medication? You're delirious. This is." Then it came out in the newspaper, and they were like, "Whoa, it really is happening." So they had this person under observation for a little bit, and then they came out to GP and went to the WAC president, now IAC. They went to the WAC president and asked her if they could get a job in electrical, and they had electrocuted their victims. So you can only imagine what's going through everybody's head. Like, wow, really?
What is the whack president?
The Women's Advisory Council. You guys got
Oh, okay,
MAC,
okay.
we got
Oh,
WAC,
Mac
right?
like Mac reps. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, we call it
So
well,
he walks,
and
but
now
we
it's
are
called
IAC
something else,
now,
right?
right? It's the Inmate Advisory Council
Oh,
because
that's right, they did change that. That's yeah, because
mhm.
It was Mac reps. We already know Mac. Everybody has
Mhm.
a Mac rep, but now
But
it's
people are still
IAC.
saying Mac. Men are still saying Mac because y'all are men. Um, but the women are conditioned and just went ahead and assimilated. Um, but this person specifically said, "Let me get a job in electrical," knowing that this individual electrocuted their victims after raping them and sodomizing them. And I mean, what does that say to the whole community? We just don't matter. We don't matter. Um, there's
That's
there's
insane.
people's husbands, there's people's ex-husbands that are coming, and they're terrified. There was two situations where there were two people coming off a men's death row to be in CCWF. And I mean, I wasn't, I didn't sleep for like a month because they denied these women's request to move. They were, they said, please let move me before this happens. And Sacramento was denying their moves.
Hmm.
Um, and these, I mean, we were praying. I went outside and Christmas caroled because I felt so bad. Um, and they were transferred just like 24 hours within their exes getting there. Um,
Man, that's crazy.
and they're scared. I mean, when the last time you saw this person on the bus was like, "I'm going to kill you," what are you supposed to think? I have one partner. She was walking to work one day and then she saw her co-defendant on the track, and she was like, "Oh no!" And she's running to the program office like, "What is my co-defendant? How did he get here?" You know, she
He
hasn't seen him in like 25 years, right? Hasn't seen him in 25 years. Doesn't know if they're cool or not, but you know, they put him on the yard with both of his co-defendants. Um, that's very callous. That's that. I don't know how more clearly they can express to these women that they don't have no rights.
Let me ask you a question. What do you think is the percentage of women in the women prison? I mean, because this is kind of a known thing. Like women, in the women's prison, they form more relationships, sexual relationships, and romantic relationships, right? Um, it's technically not allowed, right?
Hmm.
But they do it. Uh, because everybody always say like, "Oh, the women they go get turned out." You know what I mean? Um, how many? Like, what do you think is the percentage of women that are gay or in those type of same sex relationships?
Like 70,
Yeah,
65, 70. I mean, yeah.
and there are roles, right? Like
Hmm.
there's like I know you guys do like this whole like there's families. Am
Hmm.
I right or
You
wrong?
got
Can
your
you kind of
dad,
yeah.
you got your uncle, you got your mom. That's my granny. That's my sister. That's my cousin. You know, that's my father-in-law. It it is. There are roles. I mean, there was the only Japanese stud in the whole prison, so obviously that was going to be my dad. Um, it's you know, it just works out like that because women are nesters and they make families
Yeah.
even when they're pretending to be the dad. It's still, you know, family time.
But are there women in there that identify as men that they say that I am a man?
Yeah, and it's never really people don't think about it too much because everybody has so much consideration for one another. If you know this person is a stud and goes by he, you're not going to think twice about it. You know, you're just like, oh, what's up, homeboy, or
Yeah.
um, hi, dad, or hi, daddy. You know, whatever part you play in this person's life. There are people that definitely are. Living their lives as men, and there's many of them who have reached out and said these trans laws aren't for us, Amie. Can you please help us?
So
uh
that's my question is how many of them are trying to go to the men's prison?
None. Why would they leave their women and their space to go be a gladiator or a warrior? No. But plus CDCR is not going to let that happen because they don't want to have to really protect people or make sure something doesn't happen to this individual. They don't have they're not going to do that. Um, they said that there's 15 requests from women's prison to men's prison, but I know personally that there is
Mhm.
zero.
Yeah, because that doesn't and that's kinda like the point that I would be making here is like, you know, when I look at these situations, like there was a situation not too long ago in I think it's in San Diego where the YMCA where the
Mm-hmm.
girl said she seen the transgender, there was a man that was in a women's bathroom and he was naked.
Mm-hmm.
It's just funny to me that you don't ever see like where are the I'm trying to get this trans men, the biological
Mm-hmm.
women trying to go to the men's bathroom. Where are the trans men, biological women demanding to compete in the men's UFC and MMA and all that? Like, where are the like? I said this today. Like, and you look at the WNBA. The WNBA is probably they say that the number's like 30%, but there's other women that have said it's way higher, like 80-90% of the league is gay. And then there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of them that are quote unquote studs. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Brittany Griner is the most prominent one, right? You can see everything about her is masculine, the way she talks, the way she acts, everything about it. But she doesn't identify as trans. To me, why I believe she doesn't identify as trans is because if she does, then they say, well, there's the Lakers. Go ahead
Mm-hmm.
and try out. And they
Good
know
luck.
that yeah, and they know that's not going to work out. Like to me,
Mm-hmm.
this seems like just like you said, why aren't the women that identify as men trying to breaking down the doors to go to be in, Pelican Bay level 4? Why aren't they
Mm-hmm.
trying to be at New Folsom and Corcoran and all these other prisons where the men are if they identify as men? It's because it's a matter of convenience.
Mm-hmm.
It's
And
a matter
it is opportunistic, like you said, and it's relational. They want to be with their women, just like the trans women want to be with their men. This is a lot of this is relational, and you don't hear too many stories about the trans men acting out or getting attention or all of this because they don't have the same kind of paraphilic diagnoses that come with the gender dysphoria that is related to biological men. There's this thing called autogynephilia. This is
Mhm,
a paraphilia. This is like a fetish thing that used to be like when you get off on the idea of yourself being a woman. Um, I don't really understand. It's very hard to explain, but
yeah.
it's a thing. It's oftentimes um, a partner diagnosis with the gender dysphoria. It's like a characteristic that they all
Mhm.
carry. Not all, I don't say all, but in general, it's very common, and it has a lot to do with attention seeking, in my opinion. This is like you're gonna play with me. You're gonna play with me right now because I want to play. It's that kind of thing. You're gonna force your way into something, um, no matter what, at whatever cost. Um,
Yeah, I think that I believe that too. I believe that there are so I do believe that there are people that have um if you want to call it gender dysphoria, they have, and we can get into the whole reasons and why I believe this. I believe that there's a lot to do with trauma, there's a lot to do with
mhm,
um I think there has things that go back to food and
mhm,
pharmaceuticals and water supply and a lot of different things that are going on that are being pumped into people that are changing and altering
mhm.
their chemical balance, hormonal balance.
Ooh, I mean, look at the hormone level of the testosterone of a man now versus the testosterone level of a
That's
man in 1945.
I mean that and there's a difference.
Mhm,
There is. Men have become effeminized, if that's a word, I don't know, effeminate or whatever, but they've become, less masculine. And I believe it's on purpose. I mean, I talk
mhm,
about this a lot. I think it's on purpose. But I do think there are, and whatever the reason why you've become to the point where you think that you're a different other another gender other than what you are. Um, but I also think that there's a lot of people that are just confused because life has they haven't been and personally they haven't been equipped to deal with life.
Mhm.
And so there's a community that exists that says, "Hey, the reason why you can't deal with life is because you were born in the wrong body."
Mhm.
And then they find community. And then when you have the emergence of social media like TikTok and Instagram and all these different spaces where you can actually see this because back when we were growing up, you just had to walk outside and that was your
Mhm.
network. That was your social life, was your neighbor, your friends at school. You know what I mean? Like you couldn't connect with somebody in across the country or in, Japan or China, whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't now we can see everybody. And so all these different things. I mean, you look at like an account on Twitter like Libs of TikTok, we're able to see all the craziness and in social media, in my opinion, sensationalizes that. Right. So
Mhm.
the more crazy you are, the more over the top you are, the more attention you get, the more likely you are to go viral. And then so people start to mimic these things and it
And they're
becomes
addicted.
they're addicted. It's the dopamine hit of getting the
Yes.
like, of getting
It's
this the
that
follow.
and people it's the attention thing. I mean, when I was younger, it was just, "Oh, you're an attention whore. Get out of here. I don't want to play with you." But now this is, in the DSM-5 and stuff, and part of the ADA. I mean, this is um gone a completely different direction at a very fast level pace. um, People ain't ready. Like, it's gonna turn around and sock everybody in the throat very soon. um, they're gonna feel what the women inside are feeling if we don't um, shed more light and bring more attention to um, what's really going on. This isn't healthy. This is medicalization. This is always all about money, because you're going to be
Mm,
permanently dependent on um,
mm, mm,
the
mm,
medical industry as a result of this kind of transitioning. Children that are transitioning, there is no long term studies on what's going to happen to them. There's no long term studies on what's going to happen to adults that transition. What happens to your body when you're on cross sex hormones? What happens to your liver? What happens to your pancreas? It's not, your body isn't designed to take that,
mhm.
So what is it doing to your bones? What is it doing to your lymphatic system? They don't even know, but they don't care because they created now a lifetime customer.
Do you see right there? I think Matt Walsh was talking about this when he was on the Joe Rogan podcast. That's the end game. I mean,
Mhm.
like that's the agenda. That's what it's about, right? Like you have a 5-year-old kid. Mom brings a 5-year-old kid in and says, "Hey, Johnny here likes to play with dolls."
It's a girl.
Right. But back in the day, they would say he'll outgrow it.
Hmm.
Anyways, how's this? How's that? How's he eating? How's this?
Yeah.
Let's weigh him, this and that. And that would be the end of it. But and then what happens to little Johnny? He outgrows it, goes, lives his life, everything's normal, everything's fine. Um, that doesn't make anybody money.
Mm-mm.
What makes
It's
money, yeah. Go
and
ahead.
AIDS is not really, bringing in the money like it used to. So they had to create this new epidemic, which is gender dysphoria. And you got to also associate the fact that this isn't happening to everybody. If you see who this is really happening to, there's a big absence of cultural identification in a lot of these people's lives. When you're like third, fourth, fifth generation American, what do you
Mhm,
have? In and Out and Disneyland? You don't have traditions. You don't have, a granny or a bachan, or you don't have grandparents that are going to say, "Take that dress off, Billy. Take it off right now."
mhm.
You don't have um, that cultural identity that makes you feel special. So you need to create something. You don't. They pretty much took Jesus out of everything.
Mhm.
Um, so you need something. People inherently, human beings want something to identify with. Same reason why I used to think I was everything else under the sun except for what I am. Same reason why I wanted to go in the project, so I could have something to identify with, a family, a hood. This is what people
Man,
are
yeah.
creating. They need something to make them feel special, and that's why you got all these little white kids that are chopping their breasts off at 15. Um, it's there's nothing to make these people feel special. There's
It
just
it's interesting that you brought that up because I this is a point, and I don't think I've expressed this publicly. No, you know what I did? I wrote an article on this, but anyways, but I'll say it right here. I believe since you now have this rise of wokeism, right, where we are now recognizing marginalized communities, you know, BIPOC. Um, what does BIPOC stand for?
Black indigenous people of color.
Okay, okay, there you go. Yeah, Black Indigenous People of Color, right? Um, it, critical race theory. Um, so what basically what all of that says is that, and I'm just gonna put it in layman's terms, and I'm gonna put it in terms that we all kind of knew growing up, especially if you grew up in a BIPOC community, right? Being white ain't cool,
Mm-mm.
right? And so, and if you look at the hierarchies of intersectionality, as they call it, which is the different, what's more oppressed, who's more oppressed, and what they call the oppression Olympics. You know what I mean? Is it being white, and especially being a white male, you're the least discriminated against, you're the least oppressed.
Hmm. How do you jump
However,
in on that? How do you get in on that? Put on some lipstick and a dress.
and just like that, you have now jumped to the top of the list.
You're good. I mean,
I'm just
and it's
saying, like, you know what I mean? Like this is to me that seems like it makes the most sense, or it makes a. I'm not gonna say the most sense to where like that's why every no. I'm just saying, you know, you really want to be an ally, share in the oppression. And how do you share in the oppression if you're a white male or a white female?
well, you don't want to share it. You want to take it. You want to colonize it. I don't even like to say that kind of stuff, but I, I, I don't know how else to describe it. Uh, it's just like with womanhood. It's being colonized. It's
Well, yeah, and we were having a discussion yesterday when you and I were talking, and I said, "Well, I feel the same thing about, manhood."
mm-hmm,
You know what I mean?
mm-hmm,
What gives you the right to just all of a sudden jump in and say, "Hey, I'm a man"? But
mm-hmm,
the problem that I have with that is that at any given moment you cannot be a man when
mm-hmm,
it's not convenient. Like, you know, if you're a woman and you go to a men's prison, right? Are you how is that going to be looked at? I don't know. I don't know how that would play out, right? But I would assume that understanding the culture of men's prison, understanding the culture of uh males and gangs and everything like that, that nobody would allow you to beat up on that woman. I don't care if you identified as a woman. Like I didn't I wouldn't I would feel like when they say like, well, if a woman went to a men's prison, she would just get raped. But we don't really do stuff like that. Like I don't think that that would happen. I think what would happen is we would start wars between other men that were trying to claim that like she's
mm-hmm,
my girl. You know what I mean? Even if she identified as a man,
mm-hmm.
she got what a woman got. You know what I mean? So I think that you would have major, major issues. There would be major politicking over that. I don't think that I don't know why my camera just kind of glitched. No. I don't think that anybody would I just couldn't see inmates, male prisoners saying that because that woman identifies as a man, you can go take a head up fade with her over in I don't see that happening. I don't
But
think
that's
anybody.
how they should go over there with that mindset. If you're going over there as a man, I feel that you should be ready to get it like a man and take that head up fade. Like if I'm fighting with a man and I'm arguing with him and I throw blows, I'm not doing it because I'm expecting you to not hit me back. I'm not doing it because, but that's me. My brain is wrong sometimes. But I think that it's just like everybody wants to be a gangster till it's time to do gangster stuff. It's the same mentality. I want to live as a man and benefit. I want to come up in all the ways that I possibly can. However, I don't want to go to the men's prison because it's uncomfortable and it's not gonna. It is not suiting my needs, and it is just no.
But
Like you
that,
said, this is an opportunistic kind of uh, behaviors.
but that's what I'm
And
saying, because you can't, you're now you're not a man. Like that's
mhm,
what I'm saying. Like I'm not fighting a woman. You know what I'm saying? I'm not fighting a woman. And like it's like people used to say in prison, like you can't fight a homosexual because there's no way that you can win. Because if you win, they just say you beat up a homosexual. If the homosexual gets you one time, then they say you got socked out by a homosexual. You know what I'm saying? Like that's
what about like the gay boy gangsters and stuff? Like, aren't there like whole gangs like of does it work like that? There is a hierarchy in there. There is like there are general guidelines that you guys follow. That's so
yeah, but I've never really seen all like that's kind of like I don't
that's that new school stuff. They're the ones who are
yeah, I don't like I guess that exists, but it's um I've never seen like oh like I've never really seen a lot of that. Like I don't know. It's different and things have changed so much even since the time since I've been gone. So
I mean,
um
that's just I obviously I don't know what happens over there. I would never even want to pretend I know, but that's just things that I've heard through the pipeline over the last couple of years.
but
Um,
even then, I mean, I wouldn't imagine that, but like, but again, they're still men. It's
mhm,
it's more like I mean, like you can lose a fight to a gay guy. You know what I'm saying? Because he's still a guy. But I'm saying a woman. Now
mhm,
you put a woman into a men's prison. I just don't see anybody being okay with the fact that you can fight that woman one on one, even though they identify as a man. Like as us as men, you would get no points for that. And that's
mhm,
what I'm saying. Where the wars I think would start was because that woman would have no choice but to get with men in a group of men, and then they would protect that woman.
mhm.
Well, what they're getting in return from that woman is probably something that goes on behind closed doors. You understand what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm, and
I
this is the what you just described, that's exactly what, the trans women have told me would happen. That's exactly what they said, "You're gonna be protected, you're not gonna go in there and get smashed,
no,
you're a commodity."
you're a
You're
commodity
gonna
though. You belong.
mhm,
I,
mhm,
I mean, that's just how I would see that would be playing out. And I'm not saying, I just I don't see it happening in the sense of like how they might think it'll happen because but at like but the point that I was making initially was like, but you see, you're not fully a man. Like you
mm,
like if I gotta fight this dude, you should have to fight this dude, but nobody's gonna let that happen. We already know
mhm,
that. Like this whole idea that men are somehow preying on women is really not. That's that like the male predators in the world, and I'm not just talking about prison. I'm talking about in the world. I think the majority of men are are not letting that happen. You know what I mean? Like we're not letting women just get. I'm not gonna just walk by a woman just getting beat up by a
mhm.
grown man and just be cool with that and being like most men are going to come to the defense of women. That
Maybe I'm a man. No, I'm just kidding. Because 'Cause I'm not gonna tolerate any of that either. Like, I've always been real big on don't like, I can't stand the bullying. I can't stand that's why, like, this particular situation is so close to my heart because This is just like the ultimate bully factor. This is some um it's there's dudes in there that are telling women like, "Hey, don't call me by female pronouns because I'm a man and I'm gonna beat your ass." It's it's so oppressive. It's so extra. It's so much cruel and unusual punishment on top of doing your time. Your whole essence, your thoughts are incarcerated now. Um,
Yeah,
you can't
because I don't
even.
I don't I don't even see men going over there to the women's prison and just having to, like, physically do something. I think it's just their presence alone is going
Mhm.
to shake up the whole
But they
business.
are. They don't have to, but they are. Like a 70-year-old woman called me this week because she's scared. I don't even know her. Somebody gave her my number and I just happened to answer. And it was a 70, she sounded like a 70-year-old woman. She was a 70-year-old woman living in the medical unit, um, where we call them silver foxes. All the
Mhm.
old ladies are in there that have extended medical issues or it's EOP too, right?
Yeah.
Um, and there is a very predatory person that's in there, and this person is running the unit. 602s like nobody's business. The flyest 602s you ever seen has gotten all the regular staff removed. The porters that were putting the old ladies up on game have been removed. Um, and then this person, beat the brakes off their girlfriend. And
Yeah.
I
It's
mean,
it's
there's what can you do?
I don't think well, I believe these people know what they're doing. When I'm talking about the administration, I'm talking about the ideologues that are behind all this. I'm talking about the
Mhm.
Senator Weiner. He's a senator, right? Or
Yep.
yeah. I think they know what they're doing. I think they know that it's gonna cause problems. I think that's the whole point, is that you cause chaos, and I think what ends up happening is that the people then run to the same people that created the chaos, and then they say, "Please help us," and they say,
Right.
"Give us power, give us authority, and we'll take care of it," and then you
Mhm.
have nothing.
Yes, because you create a problem that you sell the solution to, and,
The Hegelian dialect, yeah.
it's horrible, it's horrible, but I don't think he's got a solution for this. I think end goal is to erase women, and start at the most marginalized sector, that nobody cares about anyway. Um,
Mhm.
and I've told women out here, like, "You gotta understand that once this project is over, once I'm gone or people really stop making any noise about this, that's when the timeline is set and the project is finished, and then it starts out here. I mean, it's already started, but it'll be finished out here too. Um, like all these people that are going through, the bathroom issues, the sports, I'm having my trophies taken or my scholarships. I don't care. Um, I don't know how to say it in a polite way, but I don't care because you can go somewhere else. You can just not get in the pool. You can do this or that, but these people don't have any choice. The women
Yeah.
inside don't have nowhere to run. There's nowhere to turn. There's no other restroom to use. They are trapped, and if they're not prioritized, um,
Well, the dominoes are gonna fall. Like,
mhm,
and that's the first one. Like, once we get that done, then everything else just it's just a domino
mhm,
effect. Everything else becomes easy. If the women that are trapped can accept it, then you can accept it.
mhm.
You know what I mean?
And that's what I gotta empower and educate and give them the tools and confidence they need in order to fight this because the whole weight of the world, the weight of women's rights and the existence of women is on their shoulders.
Mhm.
It's so unfair because they're already doing so much, but I really feel like the brunt of this is dependent on them resisting and saying
Yeah.
no. But half of I didn't even know it was okay to say no. Even in things related directly to your body. I'm not knowing you could say no. I
Mhm.
don't think so. Oh, this is a weird strip search. We're outside. You could say no at any point to anything related to you and your body and your perception of well-being and safety. I didn't know, and they don't either.
Yeah, it's man, this is like it's crazy because I think the one thing that I would or at least I believe, like the people out there that are really um that are transgender or that are, find themselves in the LGBTQ community or whatnot, right? I think they're being used for a bigger agenda,
Yeah.
and I
Mhm.
don't think they realize it. And at the end of the day, they're coming for you too.
Mhm. Oh, I think that it's starting to the awakening is occurring. A lot of trans men, women living as men, are starting to see that this isn't for them. Even the more prominent ones out here are really supportive, really, really supportive because they know the patriarchy's coming for you because they hate you just as much as they hate me because we're the same. You were born a woman, so they're not riding with you. You're not
Mhm.
a part of this. You're just a little beard to have people think that this is about more than just the men's rights action that's happening through this agenda being pushed. They're starting to figure it out. I wish it would happen a little bit quicker, but I am glad that nonetheless it is still happening.
Yeah. So you work you also work with women that are been out, and can you talk a little bit about like what you got going on there with them?
Yeah, you know, after you've done like 10, 20, 30 years, it's so hard to come out and keep up with the fast pace of this world. So uh, when there's women that are coming home to areas that are local to us, we do like a buddy system.
Mhm.
Um, gonna help you with your driver's license, your social security card, your um, perception of money and reality. Like these are real life skills that we're trying to give people instead of like you're not going to get a 401k tomorrow,
Yeah.
but you do need to learn how to open a checking account, or make your cash app or whatever. We also, if a woman needs a ride home, one of us will go up there and pick her up because there isn't anything that's exclusively for women. And one of the lifers who had got found suitable, she I was helping her fill out the forms for another program to come pick her up,
Mhm.
and she said, "Do you think it would be okay for me to put here if a woman could pick me up? Because I'm a little bit nervous. I got to go all the way to San Diego." And I
Yeah.
said, nah, I'm just going to be there. I'll be there. Because I was like, nope, I'm not even going to, I'll see you in a couple of days. And she was like, what? I said, yeah, I don't care. I'll be there.
Yeah.
And it tripped a lot of people out, but no, I'm not going to let one of my people feel uncomfortable or lose sleep over a ride home. So we're real big on the woman to woman express. We even have pillows from the My Pillow Man as a gift for when you come home, um, because they gave us an in kind donation. Because I told them how special it would be for people to have their first night of freedom with a My Pillow, and we're able to give that in their little care package.
Mhm.
Um, and then if people need help with commutations or BPH, we prep them for that because it takes a team. If you don't have
Yeah.
any support out here, it's really hard to get yourself ready for board. Um, and there's a very how do you get information? How do you access the new laws? How do you file your 1437 if you
Yeah.
don't even know what's going on? The 755, all this, we got to pump that information inside so people can access this because with women sitting in there that should have been home, because of the lack of access and the motivation to get out.
Mhm.
Um, and we want to make sure that they understand fully that there is come home, like come home. Even if you don't have nobody out here, we got you. Um, and we created this little community because there's good things that were inside. I wanted to make those accessible because people need that familiarity. So if you can have a healthy, positive, like productive thread of familiarity, it's safe and it's good. Because there's nothing like we touched on this yesterday. There's nothing like seeing somebody that is from the inside, even if you didn't. do all your time with them, there's still that thread of familiarity and
Oh
comfort that
yeah,
comes from connecting with somebody that knows the struggle.
it's different, man. It really is. It's different. It's like you feel more comfortable when you talk to somebody who has been through that same things. I mean, like, it's like going to war.
Hmm.
You go to war together. There's a language that we both speak that you can't really put your finger on, but it's there, and you know what I mean. And it's like, um, yeah. I mean, what is it like? I know for me, like I work with guys that just came home, and I have my class, and I think we talk a lot about like, you know, I hate the way rehabilitation is taught.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's taught from you're a victim, and there's a lot of grifters, and there's a lot of people, these organizations, they really don't want to see people get out of this perpetual state of being a victim or being, they want sympathy. And I don't
Because it
think that's
pays.
necessary. Of course, it pays. I tell
Hmm.
these guys all the time. I said I don't want to be teaching you forever. I don't want to be talking to you forever. I want you to move on and build businesses and build lives, and
Hmm.
we can work together on things, and we don't need to be sitting here talking about, you know, traumas from I
No,
want you
I'm
to
so
over.
tired of talking about the trauma. I want to move forward. I don't want
Mhm.
to bury it. I want to talk about it, unpack it, and keep it pushing. I don't want to have to sit with it for how long? How much longer do I have to sit with it? How many more times do I have to
Man, for real.
regurgitate this pain? Because if I could just close the chapter on that, I think it would be really great in catapulting me into the next level. Uh, I
But
don't
that's
like
not
that.
what they want. They want you to stay in this
Sad.
victim, this sense of you're an addict, you're a criminal, you're a gang member, you're this forever and ever and ever and ever, and you can
Hmm.
never overcome that. I hate that, and I go against that. ev- I fight that tooth and nail, and I know a lot of these other programs are not going to like it, and they
No.
they get they get mad about it. But I've been there, man. Like I've been there. I was there, and I understand what it takes to overcome it. And just like how you said earlier, the one thing that these women taught you was that you take accountability, and to me, that is the key to freedom.
Hmm. When I saw that I could have not grabbed that gun and I could have said, no, I'm not going to beat her up. No, I am not going to drive the car. No, I'm not going to do this. When I finally took responsibility and was like, damn, that's the part I played. Um, it changed. It changed everything. It changed everything for me, and I want to help facilitate that aha moment for my sisters inside,
Hmm.
because the victim mentality is not full rehabilitation. It's not coming full circle and being able to heal and move forward from that damaging thing that got you into the pen in the first place.
But that's what I'm saying. That's the listen. Listen, if you could take accountability for what you've done, and you start to understand that, look, I'm here because of decisions I made. This was my turning point, right? I remember I was in a Tehachapi shoe, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, how okay, what's going on here? And I said, I created all of this. I made this. I made the showers. I made the day room. I made the cages. I made the gun tower. I made the cell. I made the door. I made it all. I made it. How? Not physically, with my decisions. Every decision I made from the time all the way even before I committed crimes, every one of those decisions led me to this reality that I'm living in right now. You know what that meant? That means that I have the power to create. If I created a bad reality, then all I have to do is reverse the decisions. Instead of making bad decisions, I make good decisions. And then I can now create a better reality.
But you
I
see how
have
much power is
power.
in that? It's too much power. They don't want to give us those kind of tools because that kind of empowerment, that kind of power, that's the kind of stuff that's going to change the human condition and change
Man.
the direction that the world is turning in. So they want to make sure that that is not accessible. That's why we got to get some security because this is what we're talking about is some otherworldly stuff. This is some stuff that isn't just for our community. This is stuff that the planet can benefit from because it's missing. It's a very big need for exactly what you just said.
This is when you take this I always tell people, they have these slogans like, "Oh, power to the people." What does that mean? Power is the ability to choose to determine your own destiny, right? I want power. I want more choices in my hand. I don't want people making decisions for me. But if I'm a victim and I'm
Mhm.
constantly dependent and I'm constantly a product of what somebody else decides to do, whether that be racism, sexism, classism, whatever ism you want to throw out there that they've done to me, then if I accept that as that's the determining factor that ended me up in this situation, then I have to then accept that I'm going to sit here with my hands crossed, just like this, and I'm going to wait for you to change.
Mhm.
That's a very, very powerless and helpless situation. I
That's
reject
not
that.
living.
No,
Mhm.
I
That's
reject
not
that.
living, and if you're not living, you're dying. So, I'm mm-mm.
No,
And the whole, like, my partners and everything were real big on not doing that. That's no way to live. That's no way to become, who we were made to be. Um,
no. I tell these
mm-mm.
guys, I say, look, you come to these meetings, you sit there and you say, "Hi, my name is so and so, and I'm an addict." And then you're an addict, and I'm just, yeah. I every single day I gotta hold on. I hope I don't fall back. I hope I don't fall back. I seen a guy. I was in a halfway house when I came home, and we had mandatory AA, NA, all this different stuff. Man, there was a guy in there who came to a meeting. He was off the streets, and he said, "Man, I've been clean for 30 I've been sober for 30 years, but I'm still an addict." And I said, "What the hell? You're still an addict? That's done, bro. That's over with." Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
you used to eat dirt when you were a kid. Do you still do that now? Do you still say, like, every day I have to fight the urge to eat dirt?
I hope not.
You know what I mean? I used to pee the bed. I hope I don't pee the bed
Mhm.
tonight. Like, come on now. We have to put these things behind us.
Mhm.
We have to say that that's not, I can't claim that anymore.
And it's time to detach from that whole outfit. You got to take this off in order to shine through what you've been working on. Otherwise, you're just going to be your light is so dimmed by these things that they want us to be confined by forever. They just like when you parole, and this is a parole condition for you to be going to all these things. There's people that come home that don't have and never did have any kind of addiction problems, but you got to go and you sit and you suffer because you got to sit in these meetings. You got to be released to a drug program. I didn't have a drug problem. What do you mean?
That's how I was. I didn't have a drug problem. I didn't have no
Mhm.
drug problems, but I'm sitting over here listening to these people, and all they do is tell the same crackhead stories all the time about
Mhm.
how I was out there on the streets, and I know I was homeless and I was, selling everything for dope. And I'm like, man, why? I don't want to hear all this. Like, I want to
Mhm.
hear, like, why don't you bring some people in here that has said, look, man, we can start a business. You guys got the
Mhm.
tools. I always feel like the guys that are in prison, we're the most uncontrollable element. We don't follow rules. We don't like authority.
Mhm.
We are natural entrepreneurs because we don't want to go to college,
I
get
don't
a
want to pay taxes.
you know what I mean? I don't want to go to college, get a 9 to 5 job, punch in, punch out. I want to make my own rules. I want to be able to move as I want to do. I want to be free to do what I want to do and live my life, right?
Mhm.
You are the natural entrepreneurs of the world. You can command respect in situations where a lot of people can't. Those are
Mhm.
skills, man. Those are
That's
skills
why
that
they're
can't
in
be
the
taught.
prison because that kind of intimidation, that kind of power, that kind of strength needs to be locked up because it's too
It's a threat.
It is a threat. Oh gosh, it is a threat.
It's a threat. The establishment fears that. They fear what happens if we learn to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if we learn to play the game and we bring all this strength with us that they don't have? You know what I'm saying? Like I look at a guy like Bill Gates and I'm like, look at Bill Gates, man. This guy got all this money, right? He's got all this power and all this influence. But me and him one on one in a room alone, he's gonna come out and be like, man, we doing whatever he says.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like they don't want that, man. They don't I always feel like this, man. Like in like, I do my program in South Central LA and I come from the prisons system and I think that there's so much strength, there's so much potential in these communities and in this environment and coming from this life that if we could just learn how to play the game the way they playing it and they
Mm-hmm.
don't want you to know it. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not we let's not even pretend like we need them to teach us and bring us
No.
along. We gonna take it back.
Well, we gotta. They're gonna learn from us inevitably, but we just have to move in silence because the more noise we make and more attention we seek, that the faster they're going to try and extinguish that fire that is in
Hmm.
us. Um, but that the things that you come out of prison equipped with, the work ethic, the responsibility, these are not things that people have in the free world anymore. The eye contact we're able to make when we're having conversations, that's not free world life skills that people have anymore at all. The customer service that we would be able to provide, because we're going to try 10 times harder than anybody else because we're trying to make up for what we feel that we're lacking all the time.
Hmm.
You're going to come to work early, you're going to always do something. um
Yeah, hold on. Go ahead. You're good. Keep going.
think you're always going to be doing a little bit extra, um more so than anybody else that hasn't had the same experience that we have. So I need people to know that when they come home, like, don't limit yourself to the forklift operator or to the agencies. You don't have to do that because you are great. You have so many skills that you have an advantage because you have skills that
Hmm.
don't exist here anymore.
But that's what these programs that they don't do that. You know what I mean? And that's my biggest complaint. Like it's hard to be somebody who has been in prison for 10, 15, 20 years and during that time you have accumulated some amount of respect, right?
Hmm.
And influence, right? And then you come home and they give you a job at McDonald's and your boss is a 19-year-old, purple-haired, gender fluid, uh,
Zimster.
non-binary, Zim, Z, her, whatever you want to call it, and they're telling you, "Hey, get back on them, flip them burgers, get
Hmm.
them fries." That doesn't work. I'm not
No.
like, and I'm not saying like I understand we put ourselves in that situation, but we you can't like that's not something that's easy to do. I've been in that situation where I'm like, what did this guy say again? What did he say?
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, and then you start going through this, man. You don't know, man. You just don't know, man. You don't know.
Mhm.
You hear say, you know what I mean? So we have what I think is important, and we ain't got to let these people know. Like we know where it's at. We got to just cultivate our own.
Mhm.
We got to cultivate our own. We got to create our own businesses. We got to create our own
Mhm.
media. We have to create our own opportunities because these people, you don't want us. You want us just to be at McDonald's flipping burgers, but we bigger than that.
Mhm. I want boss players to come out to boss positions. I
Hmm.
want to help you start establishing your LLC before you even start your parole plans. I want to send you the handbook on how to start your own business and create your platforms and have your social media ready for marketing and everything before you even get found suitable. Um, I we can do it. It's not impossible.
Uh,
Um, at all. I mean, there's so many things just in my head right now that could be viable businesses for all of us. Um we don't have to settle for the pittance, the crumbs that they're conditioning us to think that we deserve.
We already influential. Like that's what I'm saying. Like we already have the power. That's why I always tell these
Hmm.
dudes, like, we already got the power. Like I don't have to teach you that part. I don't have to redirect that. I mean, I don't have to reconstruct that. You already have it. We just have to
Hmm.
redirect it. And what I mean by that is, like, I always say, like, look at your neighborhood. There's graffiti on the wall. There's dope being sold. You got prostitutes. You got shootings. You got all this crazy stuff that's going on. Who created that? You did. You look at LA. LA is notorious for gangs, Bloods, Crips, Sureños, all these different things. This is something that's an influence that's worldwide now, right? You're that influence. That's you. You did that. You made that. You're Crip, you're Blood, you're Sud, you're Norte, you're whatever you are. You're Latin Kings, GDE, you're all these things. These are influential things that now go across the whole world. That means you have the power to be influential. If you now just use a different influence, things change. Things
Hmm.
change. The neighborhood is not the way it is because that's the way it is. It's the way it is because that's how we made it. But the same thing, like
Right.
we were saying earlier, now if we make different decisions, then we have a different neighborhood. Instead of throwing your trash on the ground, you pick it up.
Hmm.
Instead of writing on the wall, we keep it clean. And now we have a whole different neighborhood. We have a whole different environment. It's up to us.
And I have to remember I got to be patient because I'm planting seeds. You know, maybe I'm not going to see everything that is in my head in this lifetime, but I know everything that I'm trying to do is eventually going to come to fruition. I just
Yeah.
I gotta stay focused and know that it's not my job to question when or how or why. It's just to keep moving forward and keep it pushing. Just
Yeah.
stay on track.
Man, that's what we're doing though. And I appreciate being able to talk to somebody like you that's doing it on your end. And, I think we got some great things on the way. And I'm excited to see what you're doing. Before we wrap up, why don't you tell people where they can reach you, where they can, follow you at, they can contribute. And it's another thing, like I wanted to say, like, um, well, yeah, let's talk about this before you leave, before we wrap it up real quick. But because of because of what you're into and because of the fight that you're fighting, what is it? Has it become difficult to get funding?
Oh, it's impossible. No, it's not impossible because God has my back so tough. But because I have been labeled nebulous white supremacist or a transphobic bigot and a Nazi enthusiast. And I knew going in that this was going to create a limitation on funding. I'm not going to be able to go to the same funding pool as anybody else, which I'm okay with that. Because it's going to happen and God's always going to provide. Because whenever we have a need, sometimes we
Hmm.
get it down to the penny, like the exact whatever we
Hmm.
need. Um, but we're not going to qualify because I refuse to. We got integrity. I'm not going to bend on certain things. I'm not going to say certain words. Um, I'm not going to say terms or language that excludes anybody. Um, I'm not. When I say women, I mean all the women,
Hmm.
all of them, from baby cases, every color, all of them. I'm not going to limit it, and that's a problem. That's definitely a problem for funding, and because we are exclusively helping women. Not that I would turn anybody away. It don't matter who comes to the door if they need help.
Hmm.
If I don't have it, we're going to tell you where you can get it. But since we prioritize women, it is a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's why it's important for people to, like, I don't even seek anything from the state because
Hmm.
he who pays the piper picks the tune. So as soon as they start paying you, then they say telling you to change your tune, and there's certain things that you can't back down from and you can't compromise on. So I mean that's why I feel like we need people who are feel the same way, that want to fight the same fight. Then maybe they're not starting an organization. Maybe they're not, you know, working with women, incarcerated women. Maybe they're not starting a podcast or doing reentry programs or doing anything like that. They may not have it, but they got the resources to help, you know, pay for travel, pay for equipment, pay to
Mhm.
keep this thing rolling, man. I mean, I always tell people, even in this endeavor, like there's a lot of people, they like what I'm doing. Okay, I live in California. You know what I mean? I have, yesterday I worked from 8 in the morning to 10 o'clock last night. You know what I'm saying? 2 jobs. So it's like I would give you more if I had more, but we have to support each other. If you know,
Mhm.
if you think that this is important, and I believe this is the fight. Like this
Mhm.
is the fight. It's huge, and like I said before, once it starts there in the women's prison, it's a domino effect because they're going to say, well, if the women that are trapped are okay with it, then you should be okay with it. Then your
Mhm.
daughter should be okay with it. Your little niece should be okay with it. Your wife should be okay with it. Your mother, your grandma, they should be okay with going and showering with a grown man.
Mhm.
So if you want, you know what I'm saying? You want
That's
to
what I
help.
and I gotta tell people regularly. I get a lot of support online. I get a lot of support on Twitter. But is that really support? Because that doesn't fund anything. It's very nice and very flowery feelings to get accolades and you're doing great. This is really big deal. This is wonderful. Thank you for sticking up for these women. That's what I do because I love them. But if you really mean what you say, kick down. There's very few people who have done that, you know? I mean,
For
I'm
real.
super blessed with the people that have, but there's very few people that are really with it. And they need, like, the words are awesome, but the physical, financial support is definitely needed.
But let's come to the table. Let's talk. Let's if this is something that you feel is important to the cultural war, for the political war, everything that you need, then let's come to the table and let's talk and let's see what we can do. And
Hmm.
let's put some real backing behind it and let's push. Because we're going to go hard.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? People like you and I, we've been up against it. So we know what it is to fight with our backs against the wall, and we're going to go hard. And maybe you can't fight as hard as we can, but let's do it. That's what I say to
Because I'll
people. Like,
take.
let's do it.
That's why I'm right here. I will take the hits. That's why I'm here to try and buffer the brunt of what's to come. Because I know that my skin's a little thicker, and I'm gonna take it.
So where can they reach you?
We have a website that we made ourselves. It's www.womanIIwoman.org. II for two.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Um,
put all this in the description box. So if you're watching this on
Thank
YouTube
you.
and everything, I'll put all of it in the description box. But go ahead and yeah,
There's that. The website is got the most information, and then very active on Twitter and Insta. Uh, Little on Facebook, but you know, we need suggestions and ideas and support and whatever you need. If you have a need, let us know and we'll work it out.
man, let's do it. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Amy. Really,
Thank
man, this was
you.
good. I mean, we almost went 2 hours, which is something I don't usually do, but I think it was really good and it's really necessary. And what you're doing is it's needed. It's courageous, it's brave. We know all that, but it's really needed, and we really need to stand behind people like Amy that's out here fighting like that. And I appreciate you coming on and telling us your story and telling us about your fighting and getting us involved.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I'll put everything in the description box. I'm gonna pull you out right now, and then I'll come back and once I'm just gonna wrap it up, and then I'll come back and talk to you real quick. So there you go. That was Amie Ichikawa. I appreciate you guys for listening, especially if you listened to the whole 2 hours, man. There was a lot to unpack. I really just think this is the fight. This is where we need to be. Like I said before, I think they're just This is not to disparage anybody in that community, because I think that those people are just as valuable and just as valid as anybody else. But they need to realize that there is a bigger agenda going on, and this agenda is not just here in the U.S., it's across the world, and there are really, really powerful forces and elite forces that want to subjugate all of humanity. And we're seeing that every single day. They're moving, they're putting they're taking pieces off the chessboard, and they're using these marginalized communities to do so. And that's the most important thing to understand. I'm not against you. I'm not against you at all. In fact, I want to be your ally, but you have to understand that we're fighting for everybody here. And everybody is at stake. And you know, we have to build coalitions, and we have to stand up against that. And you have to realize how you're being used, and how you're just becoming a tool and a pawn in this game. And so um like I said, I'm gonna put everything in the description box, all of Amy's contacts, and where you can contribute to her organization, Women to Women. And I think this is the things that we have to build together. It's not enough to sit here and like and subscribe to people's channels and like their videos and comment. And yeah, we appreciate all that, and I encourage everybody to do that. Like, subscribe. Subscribe to this channel, subscribe to other channels that are doing the same thing. But also, let's sit down, let's talk, let's see where we can help, and we can build this thing up, because that's what we're trying to do. And that's what I'm trying to do here with the No Spoon podcast, is create a media apparatus that we're telling the truth, and we're getting behind people that are really out there working, and really out there putting in the work to see this thing become defeated, and to get victorious, man. That's what we're trying to do. But I appreciate everybody for tapping in. um if you haven't done it, subscribe to the channel. um and share it with as many people as possible. But until then, my name is Che, and this is the No Spoon Podcast.